Earlier on, we spoke about the latest campaign to eradicate polio, but what's it like for someone who has polio? How do they deal with it?
Well, our second guest of the night has lived with polio from a very young age indeed. Please welcome back to Living the Life, Gautam Lewis.
Indeed,
very nice to have you back on the sofa.
Gautam, look, as I was mentioning to your colleagues, I just came back from Pakistan and sadly had to go and help the charity I was with do wheelchair distribution. Most of the cases that came forward looking for a wheelchair were those who had contracted polio. And one young man really broke my heart. He was a 35-year-old, very jovial, like yourself, but that was the one issue. He just hadn't got that drop in time. We heard your story earlier on. Let's just remind people about yourself. I mean, you had quite a difficult time from a very young age. Just remind people about that, and then we'll look at how we can move forward in trying to eradicate the disease.
So I was born in West Bengal, in Calcutta, and similarly, because of geography, poverty, and all of the previous things, I wasn't vaccinated, so I was abandoned. And as you and your viewers are aware, you know, with all the other complications, if you add disability to it, you as a family member are perhaps not as useful for whatever reasons.
Right. It's quite a harsh reality, isn't it? But it is a reality, isn't it?
Especially in somewhere like India.
Yeah,
it'd be hard going.
Absolutely. And places like Bihar and other places where there's a migration of people moving, it's very difficult to grab people to vaccinate. So I ended up living with Mother Teresa's orphanage. And fast forward numerous years, I was fortunate enough that I was adopted. And as a complete contrast, I had completely the opposite.
I mean, you've had a very fulfilling life. You've managed to do a lot of things that many people just, you know, in normal health wouldn't have a chance to do. So you've been quite fortunate in that sense.
Yeah, and I think that's why, because of all the great things that have happened to me since leaving India, and as you've mentioned in your piece earlier, the Sindh province, and so is the federally administrated tribal areas.
That's right.
And the northern states of Nigeria and the southern states of Afghanistan are still the main reservoir areas where it's still difficult purely for the technical reasons.
That's an important point, because we were talking about that off air, weren't we? And you made the very crucial point that if India, with the challenges that there are in India, with multiple races, cultures, poverty, lifestyles, religions, geography, everything, and 1 billion+ people.
Well, it's the world's biggest democracy.
There you go. If they are able to eradicate polio, it shows you that it's not about the technical ability, it's about political will, isn't it, really?
Political and social will.
And social will.
And actually, the only people that you can ever blame is ourselves for not changing lives. And as we've had in the past, smallpox has been eradicated. And just, I mean, for example, in Pakistan, with the recent issues that we've had with the health workers, and in Nigeria,
that's right.
you know, that has been condemned by everyone, from political leaders to religious leaders, and actually they have to be respected. But what that hasn't done is, prior to that happening, the resistance rate, so the reason why people aren't being vaccinated is technical in resistance. The resistant rate was 2.5%. And after that, it's only 2%. Whereas in places like Germany, it's 7 to 8%. So
I mean, look, I'm going to ask you a very harsh and sensitive question. What do you personally feel? I mean, you know, we're at the point where it's close to eradication. But what does it make you feel personally that, why didn't it happen earlier? Is that something you might question yourself?
Well, I'm not answerable for decisions that have been made in the past. And I think, you know, all I can do now is share my experiences. And from when I've been to India and I've vaccinated children, and indeed, you know, engaged with people who don't have an education or understand why vaccinating their children is a good thing, for once they were able to relate to someone.
Yeah, so but just think, I mean, Raj going and Alicia going and you going are 3 separate scenarios. I mean, you going along and saying, look, this is the outcome. And I think straight away, any cultural or any issues, they're down the pan, because you know what, this is going to make a change.
Because it can be very disabling. I mean, that's the reality, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. But I think one of the key messages is, and I think we might have talked about this before, sometimes, because people's lives are so difficult, in order to increase the begging opportunities, they might
just stick with that. Right. Unfortunately.
So that's really difficult to understand.
Well, look, you know what? You're an absolute inspiration. I remember we met last time as well. Just very finally, what is it that our viewers should be doing?
Well, as your previous guest mentioned, you know, there is a shortage of funding and there is a shortage of sort of supporting the cause. And definitely all your viewers, particularly those in the Middle East, with the conflict that's going on, they can talk to their political leaders and, you know, shout about the fact that, you know, we can all contribute funds.
I mean,
and
you've
make
had a very fulfilling lifestyle. What is it that's made your life interesting? We're talking about a story of the day today.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're trying to find out what makes jobs interesting. And you've done so many things, I remember. But what are the 2 or 3 key components that makes life interesting for you?
Are you an office man?
I can't see him
behind a desk.
I cannot see it.
Sitting
If
there.
he tells me that, I'll be really shocked.
Sitting
I
there,
think
a
it's-
sandwich at the same time every day.
If I can put a smile on someone's face, that's great.
I like
Good.
that.
That's good. But you could do that working at McDonald's.
You can.
You can,
So
yeah.
that doesn't mean that's,
That's
a bad thing. But I
Listen,
think,
I've been to some restaurants, you don't come out smiling. It depends on who serves you and who looks
yeah,
after you.
and actually talking about that,
Brilliant.
you know, in my travels around the world, where I've had the biggest smiles and the biggest give is from the people that have the least.
Absolutely.
Very good point.
Absolutely.
Well, look, thank you very much once again. Good luck to you. As I
Thanks.
said, you're an inspiration. Absolutely
Thanks.
fantastic.